You want to take it to the next slide? We're glad that we're able to spend some time with you, and excited about sharing some of the work that we've done in and around technology and our work in thinking about how to use technology in a way that it really is a resource that can do a couple of different things. It can clearly allow students to develop higher order thinking skills, engage learners. We clearly advocate for the use of technology to support instruction, enrich learning activities. But in this case, we're also offering technology as an efficiency and data collection tool that eventually also impacts learning. We always remind ourselves that technology is not necessarily innovative, but rather innovation can be viewed as the application of technology to be more efficient, to experiment, to problem solve, to augment creativity. And so when considering using technology at Colegio Menor, the question is, how will this application of technology, a solution, enhance professional practice and enrich the experience of the students at our school? And as I said before, there's a wide range of possibilities. However, we firmly believe that technology can be especially effective when used to collect and record data, to foster collaboration, and to help in our communication.
Yeah, we will also talk about a specific process that we followed to use technology in a specific way to address one of the problems / challenges that we were currently having. And we worked collaboratively to research, to gather information from users, to prototype, to test, and to make sure that what we were creating would serve its purpose and would meet our specific needs as a school. And then we will talk a little bit about our view on app design in education, what would be the next steps, what we want to do in terms of app design, programming, and technology integration in our school, so that students start leading these processes that help us all innovate throughout the school.
Great. So what we really wanted to do is to create a tool that allowed us in an agile way to collect information regarding our work on really shifting instruction. So we wanted a walkthrough observation tool that allowed us to register the appearance or observable aspects of indicators related to teaching and learning. We would then look at the frequency of those indicators to better understand the type of activities and student engagement occurring in the learning activities at Colegio Menor. The starting point for our work really was a definition of teaching and learning that we had engaged in as a school. And we worked, you can see the definition there. I'm not going to read it to you, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the process that we engaged in to produce that definition. We were in groups of just brainstorming, organic thinking about what we really wanted our classrooms to look like, what we wanted our students to be doing, what we thought our teachers as facilitators would be doing. And all of these conversations, multiple ones, were really guided by the school leadership team, which are the principals of the academic division and our curriculum coordinator. We then took all of this information and we worked with the academic leadership team, which are all school coordinators in special areas like fine arts and athletics, or Spanish delivery, or tech and innovation. Maria Jose is our lead in that area. And we brought this to ALT and we started to form a definition together. And then we took it back to the faculty for them to refine. So this was really a consensus-driven process. We then used the same process to say, okay, this is a very wonderful, robust definition. What would that actually look like in observable, actionable ways and activities that would reflect our definition? So then we started thinking about what could we do in terms of technology to enhance and support that definition of teaching and learning. And we started to think about, well, we really want to be able to take snapshots and see what's happening in the classroom in order for us to understand how our classrooms are operating under this new definition. And so we wanted to make these processes more effective and more efficient by having some tool that we could put in the hands of people that were going into classrooms, principals, coordinators that would be providing teachers feedback on what they see in the classroom. So really, we wanted a tool that captured what was happening and then supported teachers in creating and engaging meaningful learning activities that were really captured and should be reflective of that definition.
Also, while we were thinking about this tool and this app that we wanted to create, we wanted to model the use of technology and the role that it has in education at different levels. So one of the roles it has is to help leaders, teachers, and students solve problems. So in this case, we wanted to find a more effective way to carry out classroom observations, and that was a problem that we had, and we wanted to find a tool that would support us on this process. As Andrew mentioned before, the process didn't start with the tool. It started with the concept, with the philosophy, with the definition of teaching and learning, and then it was when we started thinking about which tool could we use. Another role of technology is to innovate processes and procedures to impact student learning. So learning comes first, second. And when we were thinking about, and when you think about innovation, is really about evaluating what you currently have in your school, and how you can make it better, but always aligning it to your philosophy of education, and also how you're aligning it to the needs that society expects from you, and that it has, not only to make something faster or more efficient, but something that has more meaning and that goes beyond, eventually can have an impact on student learning. And that takes us to the next role, and it is to prepare students for the future. And if we talk about app design, we all know, and we've been using apps for a while now, but many of our kids are consumers. They download apps, they know how to download them, they know how to use them, they know how to download them on different devices. But how many of our students actually know how to design an app, or go through the design thinking process to make their own app instead of creating a regular Google Slides presentation, or to be the ones who actually solve a problem that they have at school? And that brings me back to transportation app that we bought some years ago, and this is something that students could definitely create and design and find a real world application for what they do, and that will help them be successful in the future, because they will know how to create technology and how to create those tools that will help them solve problems in the future.
Great. So we envisioned ourselves being role models for that type of work that we hope students would do. And our challenge was, in this virtual moment, how do we create a meaningful classroom observations that allowed, administrators to go through a lot of different Microsoft Teams meetings and begin to kind of capture the essence of what was going on according to our definition of teaching and learning. We really wanted to have a tool that ensured that what we defined as key aspects of student-centered learning in our definition were actually occurring in operation. So we wanted a way to register those activities according to indicators that respected our approach, our consensus-driven approach, and helps us to achieve our objectives of shifting, transforming learning to a much more student-centered approach. So we wanted to innovate the classroom observations. We wanted a dynamic and engaging tool that allowed people who were committed to doing those observations a way to register these activities and provide feedback. And then finally, we really wanted a tool that met our needs. And I think Maria Jose just mentioned our philosophy about sometimes those off-the-shelf approaches just aren't the products you need in these circumstances, and you begin to think about how you become more innovative in terms of finding solutions that move you away from off-the-shelf templates and solutions and into driving solutions yourselves with technology.
And so we wanted to show you this slide because when we talk about the challenge, and when we go back to one of the crucial roles of technology, which is to help us innovate education and to find solutions to problems or challenges have. I think we're all familiar with the paper-based classroom observation. And all these three examples take into consideration a certain mission, vision, indicators, things that you want to see in a lesson or in a classroom. However, a long time ago, when we used to use these paper-based observations, they would go into a binder, and the data analysis became another challenge because you had to go back to the binder, look at the data, put it somewhere else. And so last year, we started looking at options that would facilitate this process, and we created a Google Forms, a Google form, and that had just general information, and that, but still, the principal or the observer would have to take their computer with them, and then they would have to go back and send the form, make a copy of the form, send a teacher. So it was better than the paper, but it wasn't that efficient. And so this year, Andrew, he told me, we need an app. We need something that allows the observer and the teacher to be able to both observe the lesson in a friendly way, in a way that captures what's happening in the classroom and the indicators and the definition of teaching and learning in one place, something that puts that data in a specific place as well. And we need the teacher to get immediate feedback, the immediate report. And that was the challenge that we had. And we can see in this picture how innovation happens regardless of the modality of teaching and learning, regardless of the grade, the subject, the school, the language, when you have that mind.
Great. So when we were thinking about doing this project, we thought one of the things that we talk often about in school is design thinking and using design thinking, and not only in our makerspace, but in our classrooms. And how do you really use design thinking as a problem-solving tool that allows for empathy, discovery, ideation, and experimentation? And so we thought, why don't we kind of structure this presentation around that idea and really reflect that kind of journey we took in the creation of the app. We know that design thinking, influences creative processes to gain insight and develop innovative solutions for many types of challenges. And this was our challenge to our human experience, was how do we create an app in this moment that really allows us to further our work in teaching and learning and give teachers valuable feedback in a moment when all of us are suffering through difficult times, but also beyond this difficult moment of delivery of lessons and learning activities. How can we have something that we can push forward and continue to use when we're back in our classrooms?
And so, using the design thing, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Keep going, Andrew.
No, I'm done.
By using the design thinking process, we were able to take into consideration all the important factors, the important people we had to talk to, the user experience, the technology, and in the end, by following this process, we were able to create a product that met our needs, and that was also something that was previously tested and took other important factors that, when you don't follow this process, can sometimes be ignored, right? And then you have to go back and solve the problem and find a quick solution. So by following this, we were really able to take important factors into consideration and important people and research and really test our options and make a better informed decision.
Great. So we started with the idea of empathy and empathizing with what the potential problem is. And so I wanted to sort of talk through this slide from a head of school perspective, and then Mario Jose is going to talk about it from a director, coordinator of tech and innovation. So this is about capturing kind of a dialogical process that Marie and I, Jose and I, engaged in to understand the issue and to begin to consider solutions. I met with Maria Jose to share and discuss how to capture the work on definition of teaching and learning, and what I hope we could achieve in making sure we observe the definition in operation. So a lot of conversation around how to make and create a document, at least initially a document, which turned into an app, in order for us to further our work in teaching and learning. Our school leadership team meetings focused on observable practice and actionable things that we could view in terms of our indicators. Maria Jose and I met further to discuss tech capabilities and what products were available. Principals tried out products. We tried out products. Principals beta tested and provided feedback on the different products we handed them. And they were, of course, the ones that were going to be using those observations. So we wanted to understand their needs and their experiences with the tools.
Yes, and from the tech perspective, it's very interesting to just go back and reflect on the process, because when Andrew first asked me to create an app, of course, from the tech perspective, it's something feasible and something you can do. But there always seems to be a disparity between the technology and the infrastructure and the pedagogical use that you want to give, or you want to use an app or any program for. And so I had to make sure that not only the tool would work, but also that it would serve its purpose. So from the tech perspective, when you think about an application, there are different ways to build an app. And the first options, the ones that come up first, are very expensive. You need a team of programmers. You need to know at programming, and then what happens is that they give you a product and you see if it fits your needs. And so there were while I was doing the research, there were different resources out there that weren't that expensive, didn't require advanced coding, just a little bit, and general knowledge about just workflows and design, and that would allow you to create something that's aligned to your needs without having to spend a lot as human and also economic resources and what you want to do. But I would say that the most important factor was to create something that would not only work from the tech side, that would also be useful for principals, for teachers, for students, finding a tool that could be used in a cross-curricular way in the future. And that was very interesting, because when I was creating the first prototype, it seemed perfect. It seemed like it worked great in my phone, for my computer, because I was the one who built the app. And once I took it to Andrew, there were always some things that had to be taken into consideration, like how do you install it? How do you log in? How do you share the link with the other people that will be observing, to make sure that the process would actually help them, instead of being or looking innovative, not being full or user-friendly at the end.
Great. So part of the process was, and this was the task really, was we have a consensus-driven definition of teaching and learning, but how do you make it more than a definition, but really a lived and dynamic approach to learning? And one of the ways you do that is to engage in a process that allows for observable aspects of that definition to be discussed about, reflected on. And so we really wanted to make sure that we were collecting information that provided input into these conversations about teaching and learning.
And when we were looking at the defined stage of the design thinking process, as I was mentioning before, there were different considerations that were not only technical, but also the user experience. How do principals want to approach classroom observations? What do they need? What kind of feedback is going to be given after the survey or the observation being submitted? How is that communication going to be handled? And as it says here, communication is the final objective, is just that, right? So once we send the observation, what do we want in the end? We want to communicate what we saw in the classroom, the indicators that were visible in the lesson. And so how do you, from the tech side, how do you put that in the question? There are different ways you can do it. There are different design features that you can use. And so we had to define all that, including the functions. So one of the most difficult functions that we had to include in the app was the email to the teacher. So how are we going to configure the application in a way that will allow the observer to just click on the teacher's email and the teacher being able to receive an email immediately with the indicators that the observer saw in his or her classroom or the lesson, and as well as the date, the time, the comments, the questions. It had to be something dynamic, simple, effective, and the data collection, data analysis was also another big part of the process, because many of the apps that are out there and many of the resources out there have their own site to collect data, right? But we were always having these conversations about, we want to store our own data and we want to be able to go back to it and be able to analyze data historically, periodically. So data was an important piece. Also, we included a teacher reflection as well, which is not included in this presentation because it was not strictly related to the app. But once we sent the observation, we would also include a teacher reflection survey, and then the process would continue, right, with meetings and then action plans and just aligning it to the school's continuous development plan and all that. And then, of course, it had to impact instruction. And how does this app would impact instruction? Because you could think like maybe the paper-based one would serve the purpose, right? But when you have something easy to use, something simple, something effective, then you have more time to focus on the instruction, to focus on student learning, and not as much on the app, on sending the email, on talking to the teacher, or just selecting the indicators and going back to the sheet where the data is stored. So part of the idea was, how do we build an app that will be simple enough and easy to use and effective, so that observers have more time to invest on instruction and student learning. And then we had 3 tools. So after doing our research and testing different options, the 3 tools that we found were, what if we turn a Google form into and we put it in the homepage and it looks like an app? It's not strictly an app, but it works as an app. So that was one of the options. Then we saw an education walkthrough, which was not something that met our needs. And then we found App Sheet, which is the one that we decided that you'll see in a minute. We did 1 month of prototyping, and as Andrew mentioned before, it was tested by principals and coordinators. Yeah, I'm going to skip this one, and I'm going to show you this is a screen recording. So this is my phone. Get the server's perspective. Okay, it's very short, and you'll be able to see how the end product looks like and how we're going to be carrying out our observations from now on.
And these are actually the indicators that you're seeing.
Yeah. Yes, you'll be able to see the indicators right here. So new observation, you have this observer's name, the date, the time, the section, grade level, teachers, and then you would select the email so that it goes directly to their email once it's done, the subject, and then you have the indicators. So you would select the indicators that you saw in the lesson. And then you have a space to add questions, comments, and wonderings.
Great. So we would love to spend more time on that, and we can in the future. If you're interested, there's going to be some contact information at the end. But what I wanted to talk about is how that impacts student learning. So we wanted a tool that really captured an ability to recognize shift and changes, transformations in how we teach and learn at our school, aligned with a series of indicators. This would include an ability to log the frequency in the observations of specific indicators for points of discussion and reflection, like I mentioned previously. The app allows for sending immediate feedback from the observation. It also allows teachers at periodic moments to reflect on their ability to deliver on the indicators. We then analyze trends and observe indicators and teacher reflection feedback to consider professional learning needs. The idea is to empower teachers to work with approaches and activities that engage and motivate students to become more proficient and autonomous learners.
And the next step is to put this in the hands of our students. So this would allow us to increase motivation and engagement, creativity, problem solving, design thinking, interdisciplinary opportunities, and to put this kind of projects or initiatives in their hands so that they can drive these initiatives and help us by being creators and using technology to solve problems.
So we thank you for attending the session. If you have any comments or feedback for us, it'd be great. You have our contact information there. Mario Teran also has an Instagram blog on Innovate Ed. I know we're about 2 minutes away from ending the session. If you have any questions, we certainly would be able to respond to any quick questions that you have, but we don't want to hold you from other sessions. But thanks again for joining us on our app creation journey and where it came from and why we did it.
Thank you very much, everyone. And yes, if you'd like to know more about how to create the app, how to turn the Google form into an AppSheet application, you can just send an email our way, and we'd be happy to help. And thank you.
If you want to see our definition of teaching and learning with this set of indicators related to that, we more than gladly would share that out as well.